My name is Daniel Carter, and this is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, I Opened the Door. My wife's sister was in a wedding dress. It was a rainy Thursday night in late October, the kind of night where the city felt like it was hiding something. Streetlights reflected off slick pavement, and the wind made the blinds in our hallway whisper against the window. I was supposed to be working late, reviewing a proposal for a big client at the marketing firm, but something in me, something I couldn't name, pulled me home earlier than usual. When I stepped out of the elevator onto our floor, I noticed the apartment door wasn't fully shut, just a sliver open like someone had left in a hurry or wanted someone to come in. My first thought was Emily, my wife, had been distracted. She was scatterbrained at the best of times. My second thought was worse. I pushed the door open, and there she was. Not Emily, Sophie, my wife's younger sister, standing in the middle of our living room, barefoot, her hair pinned up in a messy but deliberate way, and she was wearing a white wedding dress. I froze in the doorway, dripping from the rain. The image didn't make sense. Sophie was supposed to be in Chicago. She wasn't even engaged. And yet, here she was, looking at me like I had just caught her in the middle of something she couldn't explain. "Dan?" she said, her voice trembling. Not with fear, but something heavier, something that made my stomach knot. "We need to talk." The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. The dress wasn't pristine. The hem was damp, like she'd been walking through wet streets. My brain scrambled for rational explanations. Maybe it was a costume for some bachelorette prank? Maybe she'd just come from some wedding-themed event? But the look in her eyes wasn't playful. It was desperate. "Where's Emily?" I asked. She's not here," Sophie said, stepping closer. "And before you ask, she doesn't know I'm here." My heartbeat quickened. "Then why are you?" Sophie's gaze dropped to the floor for a moment. When she looked back up, I saw the faint shimmer of tears. "Because I need to tell you something. And once I do, you'll never see her the same way again." I had known Sophie for years. She was the wild one, traveling, bouncing between jobs, dating guys who were trouble from the start. But she and Emily had this unshakable sisterly bond, or so I thought. "Okay," I said slowly. "Start from the beginning." She took a deep breath. "You remember how I disappeared for a while last year? When I said I was in Bali?" I nodded. Emily had told me Sophie needed space after a bad breakup. We'd sent her money once, when her return flight got canceled. I never thought much about it. "I wasn't in Bali," she whispered. "I was here, in the city, with him." "Him?" Sophie's hands twisted in the skirt of her dress. "With someone Emily knows. Someone she trusts." Her words sliced through the air like glass. My mind jumped to names, friends, coworkers, maybe even someone in our family. And then she said it. "Your boss, Dan. Michael." I actually laughed at first. Short, sharp, like it was a joke in terrible taste. Michael was the CEO of our firm. Charismatic, married, twice my age. He'd been to our house for dinner. Emily liked him, respected him even. But Sophie's face didn't break into a grin. Her eyes only filled more. "It started at some charity gala," she said, her voice low. "I didn't plan it. He saw me, and he made me feel like I was finally worth something. I didn't know he was playing me, until I found out he'd been seeing Emily too. I felt the world tilt. "Emily?" I said, my voice barely audible. Sophie nodded. "For months, Dan, before I even met him." The rain outside grew heavier, hammering against the windows. I wanted to shout, to accuse her of lying, but Sophie looked wrecked. And the wedding dress, God, why was she wearing it? Hung on her like the last piece of something already broken. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. "Why the dress?" She swallowed hard. "Because I was supposed to marry him. Today." My chest tightened. "And you came here instead?" Her voice cracked. "Because he didn't show up. He was with Emily." I didn't realize I'd been gripping the chair so tightly until my fingers hurt. Pieces of the puzzle started fitting together in ways I didn't want them to. Emily's late nights, the sudden interest in networking dinners, the time she came home smelling faintly of Michael's cologne. Sophie stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I know what this means for you, Dan. I know what it means for me, but I couldn't let you keep living in their lie. And that's when I heard it, the faint sound of a key in the lock. Emily was home. The sound of the key turning was slow, deliberate. Not the hurried, rain-soaked rush of someone coming home late, but the kind of entrance where the person knows exactly what they're walking into. Sophie froze. Her fingers tightened on the folds of her wedding dress. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but no words came. I didn't move. My pulse was pounding in my ears. The door swung open, and Emily stepped inside. She had that calm, composed look she wore at board meetings. Hair perfectly pinned back, trench coat still dry despite the storm outside. That alone made me uneasy. Her eyes swept the room, landing on Sophie in an instant. No shock, no confusion, just stillness. What are you doing here? Emily asked, her voice flat. Saving him? Sophie shot back, her tone sharper than I'd ever heard. Emily's gaze flicked to me, then back to Sophie. In a wedding dress? It was supposed to be my wedding day, Sophie said, her voice trembling but strong. But I guess you already knew that. Emily sighed, set her bag down, and closed the door behind her with a quiet click. I knew you'd do something dramatic, but this? Showing up here dressed like some ghost of bad decisions? I looked between them, every nerve in my body screaming for clarity. Emily, I said slowly, Sophie told me about you and Michael. Emily didn't flinch. She just looked at me, really looked, and in her eyes, I saw a strange mix of pity and exhaustion. Dan, she said softly, whatever Sophie told you, you should know she's been obsessed with Michael for years. She'd say anything to turn you against me. That's not true. Sophie's voice cracked. I didn't want to tell him, but he deserves to know. He's been loyal to you while I've been what? Emily's tone was sharp now, slicing through the air. Holding this family together while you spiral from one disaster to another? You think putting on a white dress makes you a victim? My head spun. Every sentence felt like a move in a game I didn't even know I was playing. Why didn't you come home when you said you would? I asked Emily, my voice low. I had a meeting, she said quickly, but there was the faintest hesitation, just enough for me to notice. Michael was there, yes, but it was work. Sophie laughed bitterly. Work? Is that what you call spending the night in his penthouse? Emily's eyes narrowed. And you know that because you were spying on us? No, Sophie said, stepping closer to me. Because he told me, right before he didn't show up to marry me. Emily crossed her arms, her voice turning icy. You see, Dan? She can't help herself. She's hurt, so she drags everyone down with her. Or maybe, Sophie said, her eyes locked on Emily's. I just refuse to let him be the next casualty in your game. They stared at each other. Two sisters, same blood, same sharp intelligence. But in that moment, they were enemies. And I was standing in the middle. I wanted to believe Emily. God, I wanted to. We'd built a life together. We'd survived layoffs, my father's death, her mother's illness. But Sophie's words, they had a weight to them that felt too precise to be made up. The storm outside rattled the windows. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Michael's name lighting up the screen. Both women saw it. Sophie's eyes widened. Emily's expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened. Answer it, Sophie said. Don't, Emily said, her voice calm but firm. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the accept button. And then, I answered. The line crackled for a second before Michael's voice came through, low and deliberate. Dan, we need to talk. Alone. I didn't respond. My eyes were locked on Emily. Michael continued. Don't believe everything you've heard, and don't trust Sophie. She's not who you think she is. The call ended abruptly. Sophie stepped closer, desperation flashing in her eyes. Please, Dan. He's manipulating both of you. You have to believe me. Emily tilted her head, her voice almost a whisper now. Think about who's standing in front of you in a wedding dress, Dan. Think about the kind of person who does that. The tension was suffocating, and I realized in that moment, whoever I chose to believe, I'd lose the other forever. And I still didn't know who was telling the truth. The rain outside had softened to a steady hiss, but inside, the air felt sharp enough to cut. Neither of them moved. Neither of them blinked. I could feel my own heartbeat in my throat. I wanted to demand answers, but I knew that whichever question I asked first would betray where my loyalty leaned. So instead I said, "Sit. Both of you." They didn't sit. Emily crossed the room, took off her coat, and draped it neatly over the back of the chair, as if we were about to have tea instead of dissect my marriage. Sophie stayed rooted to the same spot, clutching her dress like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. "You remember," Emily began, her voice calm, "when we were struggling to pay the mortgage last year?" "Of course," I said. "And who bailed us out?" I knew the answer before she said it. "Michael." "Yes, he did it for you, Dan. For your career." "Sophie?" Emily glanced at her sister. "Misinterpreted his kindness. She's been chasing him ever since." Sophie's laugh was short and sharp. "Kindness? He told me he loved me. He promised we'd leave everything behind, jobs, family, all of it. And then he dangled you, Emily, like a prize I could never win. He's been playing both of us." Emily didn't even look rattled. "If Michael told you that, then he lied. But it's not because of me. It's because he lies to everyone, including Dan." My head was a carousel of their words, spinning faster with every sentence. "What exactly did he lie to me about?" I asked. Emily's eyes flickered for the first time, quick, almost imperceptible. "It's not important." Sophie's voice cut in, raw and unfiltered. "He's been grooming you, Dan, ever since you started at the firm. You think those promotions were merit? You think the client bonuses were random? He's been setting you up to take the fall for something big, something illegal." Emily shot her a look sharp enough to draw blood. "Stop." But Sophie didn't. She stepped toward me, close enough that I could see the raindrops clinging to the lace of her dress. "Michael's laundering money through the firm. He used me to keep Emily quiet because she found out. And he used Emily to keep you loyal because you're the one who signs off on the accounts." My stomach dropped. "You're saying I'm already implicated," Sophie said, "whether you knew it or not." I looked at Emily, desperate for a denial. "Tell me that's not true." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Just a long, quiet exhale. That silence. It was worse than any confession. I stepped back like she'd struck me. "You knew." Emily's eyes glistened, but her voice stayed level. "I didn't have a choice. He owns everything we have, Dan. The house, the cars, even the savings account. Walking away wasn't an option." Sophie's voice cracked. "So you let him ruin your husband instead?" The room felt smaller now, the walls inching inward. Emily took a step toward me, her voice soft but fierce. "I was protecting us. Protecting you. You think blowing this open will save you? It'll destroy you, Dan. And me. And yes, even her." She nodded toward Sophie. Sophie's hands balled into fists. "At least the truth would be out." Emily shook her head. "The truth won't set you free. It'll bury you." Something inside me shifted then, like the moment you realize the floor you've been standing on is actually thin ice. I looked at both of them. Two sisters. One in a wedding dress, one in her work clothes. Both tethered to a man who wasn't in the room, but whose presence filled every corner. And I realized this wasn't about love anymore. It was about survival. The storm outside had stopped completely. "I need time," I said finally, my voice steady. "Both of you leave." Sophie's eyes widened. "Dan, go," I said, sharper now. "Before I say something I can't take back." Emily didn't argue. She took her coat, slipped on her heels, and walked out without another word. Sophie lingered a moment longer, like she wanted to reach for me, then followed her sister into the hall. The door clicked shut, and I was alone. I stood there in the quiet, staring at the imprint of Sophie's damp dress on the carpet, Emily's faint perfume still hanging in the air. and Michael's name glowing on my phone screen again. For the first time in my life, I didn't know whether the next call I made would save me or destroy me. I didn't answer Michael's call. Not right away. Instead, I poured a glass of whiskey, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the dark screen. My mind replayed every handshake, every congratulatory pat on the back he'd ever given me. Every late night Emily said she was networking. Every text from Sophie that I'd ignored because I thought she was just in one of her chaotic phases. The truth wasn't a clean cut. It was a slow bleed. When I finally called him back, his voice was calm. Too calm. Dan, you've had a rough night, I imagine. You've been using me, I said. My voice surprised me, it didn't shake. You've been using all of us. A pause, then a faint chuckle. You're smarter than I thought. But careful, my friend. The truth is like a loaded gun. Point it in the wrong direction, and you'll shoot yourself. I gripped the phone tighter. You played two sisters against each other. You made them think. I didn't make them do anything they didn't want to do, he interrupted, his voice dropping lower. You think Emily didn't know exactly what she was doing? You think Sophie didn't enjoy every moment I gave her? They're not victims, Dan. Neither are you. We're all just people taking what we can, while we can. His words were oil poured over a fire I'd been trying to keep from igniting. You're done, I said. He laughed again. I own you, and when the time comes, you'll thank me for it. The line went dead. I didn't call back. Instead, I grabbed a duffel bag, stuffed in some clothes, my passport, and the old photo album from when Emily and I first met. We were so young then, before the house, before the firm, before Michael. Back when love was simple, not strategic. I left the apartment without looking back. It's been 6 months since that night. I left the city, got a job in a smaller firm, far from anyone who knew my name. I haven't spoken to Emily or Sophie. I don't know if Michael still watches me from a distance, or if he's already moved on to his next game. What I do know is this: the people you love most are capable of hurting you in ways strangers never could. And sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's the only way to save yourself. If I've learned anything, it's that love without trust isn't love at all. It's just a long con with better lighting. And when you finally open the door to see the truth standing there, whether it's wearing a wedding dress or a business suit, you have two choices. Let it in, or close the door and never look back. I chose the latter.